Hi guys, so today's video is gonna be a highly requested video, and I've already done a video about that in the past, but it's a pretty old video and my English was not as good as it is now. Not that it's perfect now, but yeah, and few things would be quite different actually. So since it's been requested a lot, I thought I would do one again. So here we go. I have like 6 tips that I think are interesting. Some of them might be obvious and I hope it's not boring in any way, guys, sorry. First tip is very important to me, but lots of people, when asked what would you suggest to someone who's wanting to learn a language, they immediately say you should practice language with, native people. Well, it is true somehow, but I would not suggest that in the first place. I feel like the most important point is grammar. Grammar might seem a little bit boring, annoying, and some people don't really like it. Well, actually a lot of people hate that. I've always found it very interesting, and I've always felt like it was the easiest part of learning a language, and it's also, to me, the most important part, because I truly believe that the meaning of any sentence or any text or anything is in the grammar. A word itself, even if you know what it means, a word itself cannot tell you if it is an object, a subject, if it's a complement. You might be able to recognize the meaning of that word, but if you don't know how to analyze a grammar, you don't know what this word is in the sentence for. The first step in learning a language is not going out and just trying to talk with people, or not listening to songs or watching, movies or series in that language. It's about learning the very basics of grammar, because it is the most important, and that's what makes you able to understand the language actually. So I don't think it's old-fashioned to start learning a language with learning grammar and really focusing on the grammar, because I feel like it's very important, and I will never stress that enough. And basically, when you get comfortable with the grammar, you get comfortable with conveying your ideas in that language, and that's when you can start actually writing or speaking. Second tip is practice very often. I have to admit, sometimes you don't want to practice. Well, it has never happened to me with English, but it happens to me very often with Japanese, just for the simple reason that it is a language that is so different from, well, French or German or English or whatever, that sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. So I would suggest not, planning on learning or studying for hours and hours. Just try to do it a little bit of time, I would say half an hour every day or something. It really helps. You have to practice reading, you have to practice writing, you have to practice hearing, and you have to practice speaking. That might seem a little bit difficult sometimes, because if you don't have anyone to talk to, how are you going to talk? I started doing videos on YouTube in English, and my English at that time was really bad, and practicing makes really a big change. Okay, if you don't believe me, you can go have a look at my first videos on YouTube, and you will see how much of a difference there is in my English. You don't have to upload things on YouTube, but record yourself speaking would be really the best thing ever. Then reading, very easy. Twitter, blogs, and yeah, anything on the internet. You can read in any language you want. Then writing, well, it's always the same. You can write on Twitter, you can write on your blog. I would suggest writing on the blog is a really nice thing, because you can get people correcting you. Hearing, well, music, movies, videos on YouTube, and that's basically just it. So third tip, find different ways to, I would say, relate to that language, and find different ways to really use that language. A language is not only something you learn in a book, and it's not either only something that you use to communicate with people. So if you're not feeling comfortable enough yet to see language as a way to communicate with people, you can see it as a way to expand your territory of learning, discovering things that you like. For example, let's say you're learning Russian. You might want to be able to read about Russian history or culture in Russian, because you will have access to some sources that may be much more interesting than the ones in your native and own language. For example, you can see a language as a way to just transform yourself. You can see language as a way to have fun, basically. It's so fun, to see your voice changing, see how your personality and your gestures can change according to the language you're speaking. Um, or maybe traveling, You can just enjoy learning a language because you like the sound of a language or because you like the way it looks when you're writing it. Just try to see language as a very various and multiple thing, and try to also use it and learn it in very different ways. There are so many different ways to learn a language. Just find what works for you and what really motivates you, okay? That's very important. If learning a language in a book with just only very dumb examples doesn't work for you, try to find texts and poetries or articles that you like and try to find the grammar points in those texts, because that will make sense maybe much more for you than just the plain and very dumb sometimes examples that you can find in books. Fourth point, understand that learning a language is a never-ending process. I've been speaking English for about 8 years now. As much as now, I can understand pretty much anything in English without having to pay attention to what's being said. Sometimes I'm even like, wait, was it in English or was it in French? Or even if I'm not, dreaming in English, or even if I can speak English without having to think of what I'm saying, without having to switch between French and English in my head, even if it comes very naturally to me, I don't think that my learning of English is over. It's never over. You'll always be learning a new thing. It's not something you take for a given time, and when you reach the end, okay, that's done. No, obviously there's a point when you can feel like you've, accomplished something big enough to say it's over now. I'm okay in that language. I'm fluent. Obviously, I would consider myself fluent and bilingual at least, but I don't feel like I'm done with English. I think it's just growing bigger and bigger in me, and I want it to grow as big as possible. Fifth point, obviously, there comes a time when you have to realize that language has two, at least, sides. The one you write, the one you read somehow, sometimes kind of, and the one you find in books, and the one you hear in the street. The French I write is not the French I will speak. Most likely it's not gonna be the same. And the French that I find in books that I like reading, which are classic, is not the French I will find in books or articles now online, for example, let's say, or even in newspapers. Yeah, speaking with native or very advanced people is definitely something very important. I understand it's not always easy. You will be afraid to make mistakes, but we go on to my next point. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. So I should really learn from what I'm going to say, because I'm afraid of making mistakes when I'm speaking and writing in Japanese. I've never had that fear in English. For some reason, even now, I don't care at all doing mistakes. I like being corrected, but in Japanese, I will feel very, very, embarrassed and very uncomfortable if I have to speak Japanese with people, because I am so afraid I won't be able to understand what they're saying, or I know I will make so many mistakes, but it's just fine. Because first of all, you learn from your mistakes. That's so simple and obvious, but that's true. And then also, mistakes are fine. Like, it's fine. You haven't killed anyone, you haven't done something illegal, you haven't done anything wrong. It's just a mistake. And thirdly, don't be too harsh on yourself. There are so many people who go through their lives without even trying to learn another language. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's fine. It's fine, okay? No one will laugh at you. So my last advice, which I think is important too, is don't compare yourself to others. Don't be discouraged or depressed or upset because your whatever instead the language you're learning is not as good as the one of your friends or your neighbors or your classmates or whatever. Everyone goes a different rhythm, a different path. Everyone's different way to learn, different way to assimilate things. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to reach the goal you set yourself. The most important thing is to reach that goal. So yes, that's basically just it for the video really. I hope it was a little bit helpful or interesting for some of you. If you have any suggestions or ideas or any tips, feel free to comment, and I hope you enjoy watching it, and I will talk to you very soon, guys. Bye!